The first match of the day is coming up. It's going to be Argentina up against Hong Kong to kick off one of the longer days of the Hearthstone Global Games coming up, as you'll soon see. Argentina with Mage, Shaman, and Druid having had their priest banned up against Hong Kong with Shaman, Warrior, and Rogue having their Druid banned. And I was just saying to you in the breakdown, Druid seems to be the deck at the moment. It's being banned, it's being shielded all over the place. What's going on with that?
I think there's good reason for it, honestly. The matchups that it's typically been seen as being weaker in, I think players are starting to realize more and more that's not actually necessarily the case. Like, I think misinterpretation of matchups can almost come as a result of like a safety blanket to kind of console yourself that a certain deck isn't overpowered. Like if you remember back to the Quest Rogue days, the thing you'd always say is, oh, it's weak versus aggro. It's weak versus aggro. Always loses to aggro. But if you remember back, at the height of Quest Rogue, it only lost to Tempo Mage. That was the only deck that it lost to when it was at its most powerful. Every other aggro deck it just destroyed. And Druid, as I get to my point, feels kind of similar to that. The only deck that it feels really weak to, outside of the weird super fringe ones, is Combo Priest, where it just really loses early on. Like with Zoo all but disappearing. Evolve Shaman, I would say, is close to a 50-50 matchup anyway. I think bringing it, shielding it, especially if your opponent doesn't have Combo Priest, is a fantastic strategy.
Fair enough. Well, again, it's clearly doing something as the other team, you know, one team with a ban, one team with a shield. We'll see how that develops a little later. Now, we've got Reno Mage up against the Hakar Warrior here. A very interesting matchup. We haven't seen much Reno Mage at all in the Hearthstone Global Games this year. And already I'm looking at that Hakar Derek thinking, is that going to shut down Reno? Is that going to shut down Zephyrus?
We'll have to see. It can be a pretty complicated matchup because if we think like about Reno Mage versus Control Warrior historically, drawing upon the wisdom of the elders again, I'm reminded most of Masters Tour Soul this year, where Reno Mage was far and away the most popular deck, far and away the most powerful deck, and the only Control Warrior that wasn't a Bomb Warrior in top 8, I believe, was Deaddraw, who we'll be seeing later on today for the United Kingdom, and he got destroyed. He lost 0-2 in the top 8 to 2 Reno Mages very quickly, didn't stand a chance at all, to be perfectly honest. There were just too many threats. But those were quite different decks. It's a very stupid comparison to make Darek a terrible caster, because Luna's Pocket Galaxy was in the Mage, which allowed for huge amounts of tempo, and there was no Hakar, no N'Zoth in the Warrior. And I think you correctly assume that one of the biggest things this will revolve around is Hakar and making sure that Hakar dies.
Yeah, well, with the Shield Slam available in the hand.
That's it.
With, I assume, Emperor Thaurissan in the deck as well. There should be a way to guarantee that that happens, without a doubt. How much of an impact does that actually have, though? How vital is it shutting down the Highlander cards?
Well, I think it's definitely an important factor later on in the game. I would imagine that shutting down the Highlander cards is less of a concern for Warrior in this matchup because Reno the Relicologist itself is a removal card. It's very, very low actual threat on the board, and typically Warrior does not care about removal because they are the controller of the two decks. But Zephyrus can be a little bit scary, you know, given that it can generate Tyrion, maybe for a bit of extra pressure, Bloodlust, Savage Roar later on. It's nice to just close it out. But the main thing is really just that the Mage does not have the ability to replace their deck with Archivist Elysiana like the Warrior does.
So it's less the impact on the sort of middle of the game and more just the win condition. Hakar dying means that eventually those bloods are going to be killing the Mage. As we're just sort of talking through the early phases of the game, there's not all too much going on at the moment, but soon things are going to start to kick off as the power cards become available for Nalgudan.
Speaking of power cards and Highlander cards specifically, I've got to be honest, I'm already in this match thinking, what would Dragon Queen Alexstrasza look like in these scenarios? Like 9 mana 8/8, couple of free dragons. I'm not going to lie, that would be busted. That would be like crazy powerful in this matchup. Yes!
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness! Yeah. Cora, what have you done?
Everything is Cora's fault now.
You joined the team for 5 minutes and they print that?
Yeah, it's definitely not like this card has probably been designed for months and months. Right, nice big tempo swing at the start now for Nalgridan, or relatively big tempo swing, I suppose it's fair to say, before we start hitting the power turns, as you can see in his hand of 6 and 7. It does make it a little bit awkward for Fung to deal with, to be fair, because he can't chew through it nice and easily. So maybe we'll just see developing of a casted defender. Yeah. Protect himself, get setting up for the Zoff later.
Yep. I mean, I did say there's not too much happening at the moment, but it is important that Fung and Hong Kong do defend themselves, because that is a 6/6 on the board. Siamat is in hand, ready to deal some more damage as well. Antonidas could deal a significant amount of damage, especially given there is a coin and an elemental evocation there in the hand, ready to go. We could be talking a lot of fireballs coming up soon for Nelgudan.
This is a very complicated turn, in fact. Do you think this is a polymorph turn? As he plays
Nelgudan certainly does, yeah.
Yeah.
And it makes sense. Dramatically reduces the power of the N'Zoth.
Right, and that's the thinking, right? It's a good card now, and it has an effect later on. Then you obviously have to consider the power of Hakar, because what Nalgridan wants to do this game is transform the Hakar so the Death Rattle can't go off. He does have another way to do that. Zephyrus will offer Hex once it's played, but he doesn't have it in hand.
Assuming he manipulates the mana correctly.
Yes, I mean, if he does everything correctly, he should almost certainly be able to transform the Hakar afterwards.
Yeah.
But then the next layer of thinking is, will I even be allowed to do that? The warrior has the ability to go Thorasan into cheaper Hakar, shield slam it away.
Yeah.
That was.
So what you're saying is there's no point in holding on to the polymorph, given that Fung can just play around the polymorph anyway. May as well use it proactively to deal some damage, and as we said, shut down that N'Zoth a little bit later on.
That's definitely, I think, where the line of logic stopped for Nalgridan, which is a very valid school of thought, and I think probably I would lean on his side as well. But you have to consider as well, what is my best win condition in the matchup? Is it to hope that Thorasan or Hakar is the bottom card? In which case, hey, maybe you should just play it. Or if it's Thorasan that's the bottom card, maybe he can't go for the Thorasan win condition, so you can polymorph it later on. I think all things considered, Nalgridan should probably just realize, as he has done, polymorph, use it when it's good, play for tempo to try and win your threats.
And we are just going to see the Wind Fury Divine Shield team out there, ready to go next turn. And if Fung doesn't have a way of dealing with it, this is going to cause another pretty important amount of damage. However, there is a Warpath, there is a Plague of Wrath, and there is a weapon. So Fung does have the means to deal with it, though it is kind of awkward having to face tank for 6 damage first. It's just going to use the Reckless Mummy. With one more mana, he would have been able to go Warpath, Plague. He couldn't do that with only 8 mana available, so it's really annoying.
And it's not like the typical control matchups where tanking face damage is usually like, whatever, it's a resource, I just want to get it down. Up against the Mage, thanks to the big boy Tony, Archmage Antonidas in Nalgridan's hand, Fung has to be careful because there is a lot of damage that can come through.
Well, you've sort of made your decision there now, Gudan. You're going to pay that coin. There's no point in just holding on to it. Here goes Frostbolt, and I assume turn the 0 mana elemental evocation into a fireball.
Yeah, I think this is a pretty opportune moment to let loose with the Antonidas. You've just seen a shield slam. You've just seen your Siamat dealt with in a relatively inefficient manner, to be perfectly honest, where he had to tank quite a lot of damage. So really here for Nalgridan, this is, I think, pretty reasonable to assume that this will stick. It kind of has to be played.
Yeah, I mean, against a warrior, you never feel super safe that something's going to stick because of the sheer amount of removal. But as you said, there weren't many options. Plague, unfortunately, Argentina was present, ready to go. So there goes Antonidas. Even so, there's 3 fireballs in the hand. That's 3 more fireballs than there were at the start of last turn. 22 health for Fung. It's definitely looking possible for Nalgridan to start to chip away at the rest of that health.
say it's looking more than possible. I'd say it's looking probable at this point. With a Sandbinder in hand as well, that guarantees Zephyrus because he's already played the Tiamat. And that's 18 damage, 28 if you count it as a Pyroblast, which you could definitely manipulate it to give. I'm liking the odds here for Nalgerdon, big time.
I guess the point where, even with Zephyrus, I think you just forget about her card and just go for to try and get that Zephyrus to give you as much damage as possible.
Maybe her card's good for you. It shuffles the blood into Fung's deck as well.
Well, yeah, that's right. It's getting to the point now where Fung can't even really think about playing it. And because of that polymorph on the Kati Defender, N'Zoth does nothing at the moment. Showing us the second upside of what was, as we've now established, very intelligent play.
Oh, damage loaded up now preemptively for Nalgerdon. I was wondering whether it should have been a ping instead of a Bone Wraith played on the previous turn just to guarantee the 1 damage to face, but again, props to him. It is working out beautifully here with the extra 2 damage he's able to push through from the Bone Wraith. And at this point, first port of call has to just be Fireball, Fireball, ping. And then is there anything better than that?
It's unlikely, Derek. I mean, Fireball ping is 13. That puts Fung down to 7. Then Fireball, Zephyrus, Fireball would be an option next turn. That's another 12.
Right.
So Fung will need to use that shield block in order to get out of range if Nalgerdon does decide to go that route. And sorry, I wasn't even counting the minion damage when I said all of that.
Yeah, I think what Nalgerdon's really considering here is Ziliax. Because if he goes for a full push of damage to face and he's met with a Ziliax magnetized on, that's where things could start to go pretty wrong, honestly. And so here instead, what he's going for is freezing the minions on board. So Ziliax can only come down as a 3/2 if he wants to get any immediate benefit out of it, which seems, again, pretty smart. Still sets up lethal.
Shield block obviously helps considerably, but Fung is going to need more than that over the next few turns. And again, with that N'Zoth just completely out of action, it's really shut down Hong Kong this game.
Yeah, I don't think there's any way to get lethal here for Nalgerdon because both Savage Roar and Bloodlust would have both been 6 damage, which is the same as a 5 anyway, off of a Zephyrus.
Definitely didn't expect this to be such a smoky game from the Mage.
I think it's a very smart way to approach it. You know, we can mess around with all the Hakar nonsense, or you can do what Nalgerdon did, which is realize I've got an aggressive hand. Just play to it. That's how you win.
Yeah. And now, funnily enough, Reno is actually a reasonable removal here. Not that Nalgerdon even needs to play it.
Reno, the reasonable relicologist.
I wonder.
15 damage available for Nalgerdon this turn with the double fireball ping.
Yeah.
17 health for Fung. Nalgerdon is just, he's still playing around that Ziliax by the looks of things, Derek. And just clean up all of the 1/1s that could be magnetized onto.
That definitely does feel like the only way he loses right now.
Yeah. Whoa.
Ooh. Dr. Morrigan in Mage is pretty good.
Let me just skim through this deck list here. Sylvanas, good. Caligos, good. Mountain Giant, good.
Good.
There's not many great targets for it, but yeah, it's you don't.
As far as 6 drops go.
Yeah, I mean that's true. And to be honest, anybody at this stage, given how weak Fung is, anybody even a 3/4 would be fine as the death rattle here. And yeah, Nalgerdon's gonna get something.
Yeah,
It's
I mean,
snap.
and just with the 2-1 that was left on board. So that is going to be the first game going to Argentina there on the Mage. It's the first time, or is that the second time we've seen Reno Mage at all so far this tournament? We saw a pretty disastrous looking Flamewaker Mage, kind of Cyclone Mage from South Korea, which just absolutely fell apart. But the Reno Mage at the moment, I think, is a very reasonable deck. Again, it's decent against the Shaman. I know I was disagreeing with Gallon about that a little bit, but I think it's decent against the Shaman. It's not terrible against the Priests. Against the Warriors, it's also got a chance of just out-threating them.
Yeah, well, it certainly worked out for Nalgudan here as we're going to jump straight into game 2, and it's going to be a Shaman mirror, sort of. It's going to be the Quest Shaman up against the Token Shaman. A matchup I actually haven't seen for a little while. I don't know if you had this many times last week, Derek. But how do you expect this one to go? Because typically... Oh, hold on. There's a Doomhammer there. Let me just reassess this deck list.
Yeah, this is not
pure aggro.
Token Shaman. This is Aggro Shaman. Yeah. Which does change things because, I mean, what I was going to say is in this matchup, I usually feel slightly favored as the Token Shaman as opposed to the Quest Shaman because I feel like you are able to get a bigger board easier. They struggle to deal with Thunderhead, they struggle to deal with Spirit of the Frog, and you should be able to dominate the board that little bit more. Have that. They don't have that much healing in the deck, so maybe Doomhammer is enough to just close out the game.
I have to admit, Derek, these really aggressive aggro shamans always hold a warm place in my heart, because there's nothing quite like occasionally just out of the blue seeing a Doomhammer hitting, you know, for 5 damage a hit, lava bursts going face.
Yeah.
It makes a nice change. But let's see how defensively Fung can play this. Obviously, Titanic Lackey is a good start defensively. Mogu Flesh Shaper could be a nice defensive tool, as could Weaponized Wasp, actually.
Yeah. Nalgudan here has, I suppose, the opportunity to start going in with Desert Hair and all that stuff, but I think more likely we're looking at a Lightning Bolt to clear this 2-3 off, which is good for him because, you know, from his perspective, he definitely wants to keep the board small to play around Mogu Flesh Shaper.
Yeah, the 2-3 is certainly quite awkward. Very awkward shape for Nalgudan, so yeah, the Lightning Bolt probably going to have to be used. What about the rest of the turn? Are you looking at the second Voltaic Burst? Maybe just a Hero Power? Doesn't feel that proactive.
Yeah, I think probably Hero Power. Like, it sets up for Hair on the following turn, doesn't sound terrible, and then Doomhammer on 5. Basically, this Damahe has to start going face.
Yep.
The trade those play around Mogu Flesh Shaper, fine.
Did that even play around Mogu Flesh Shaper? Yeah, I guess it would have done. Yeah, it would have cost 3, so with the coin, it would have been playable this turn.
Coin Mogu Mutate. I mean, it's not a big thing, but it's probably worth it.
Yeah. Or even coin Hair Mogu.
Yeah, there you go.
Job's done.
Alright, stats on board, start fighting back. I'm okay with this. Really just want to make sure anything that you can stick on board for the Mogu on the following turn.
Lickham is a really nice pickup there. That's going to start dealing with those awkward 3 health minions. As the only problem with the Lickham is that it's now a weapon that's sort of in the slot that Doomhammer wants to be, and he doesn't want to waste the damage, so I guess it is going to be that into Hair. But now, yeah, the Mogu, sorry, the Hair into the Evolve on the other side.
Yeah.
Oh, Houndmaster Short! That's the dream, isn't it? Isn't that just the Desert Hair into Evolve dream?
That is absolutely filthy. Oh my god.
Alright, should we move on to the next game then? Or
I mean, no. Okay, this is where I think the Aggro Shaman has a shot where the Token Shaman would not. Doomhammer is just 16 damage straight up. And although this is 8 damage on board for Fung, which is a lot, maybe if we're looking at some perfect draws like Rockbiter into Rockbiter, There's something going on here for Nalgodan. Maybe.
Even then, that's lethal in 3 turns, right?
I mean, if you factor in the Electra, but yeah, even then, it's not looking great. It's got to be.
Oh, sure,
gotta be
with the
said.
Electra, yeah.
But I think we can both agree with an evolve that devastatingly strong from Fung, and when you factor in this, I think you're probably your only chance as Nalgodan is to push everything face.
Waters are so squishy.
Well, I've got to admit, that Taunt Totem does pose a rather large annoyance for Nalgodan there. Even that, just blocking the 2 damage is frustrating. And there's the Rockbiter. So I
Okay.
guess now Rockbiter, Voltaic Burst. Burst gets rid of the Taunt Totem, and then Rockbiter goes face for 10.
Wait, how does
So
it work?
they've-
Are you supposed to save it for Electra? Because if you go, so you can get
That's
4
16 damage in
face-
1 turn.
Yeah.
Which is
So if
still
you draw-
2 off lethal next turn.
Lightning Bolt. So I guess the out is if you don't die on the following turn, which you shouldn't, you go Hero Power Voltaic Burst, or Hair Voltaic Burst, I suppose, and then you put 4 damage face, which brings them down to 18, and then Electra, Rockbiter, and hope to top deck Lightning Bolt is the out.
Because you have 1 mana remaining next
Yeah.
turn due to the overload that the burst is causing this turn. So yeah, Lightning
Yeah.
Bolt would be the only one. Yikes!
There is little time.
Or are they playing? No. I was wondering if they were playing the Totemic Smash, but that'd be
Oh
it.
yeah, sure, that would have done it.
Yeah.
Well,
I mean,
that
maybe they're
does
seeing something
appear to
else.
be the line.
Maybe there's another out that I'm not seeing.
Oh, I guess not playing the burst means that a second Rockbiter weapon would be lethal. Not playing the burst means he's not overloaded, which means he's got the 1 extra mana, which means second
True.
Rockbiter weapon would do it. So now Rockbiter weapon or Lightning... Oh no, Lightning Bolt wouldn't do it now.
Okay, so it's the same thing effectively, right? You have a 1
Yes.
outer. You're just
Well, no,
choosing which
because
one
there's
to have.
2 Lightning Bolts. No, one's been played. Okay, you're right.
One
It's
Lightning
one
Bolt,
either way.
And I'm
Lava Burst
trying to
is too
think if there's
expensive.
anything else that would make the difference, but I don't think there is.
I'm staring at this deck list and I'm not seeing anything
Yeah.
else that makes an impact there.
Yeah.
Rockbiter weapon is the only lethal next turn, I think. That'd be a disgusting Doomhammer swing.
I wonder if that was supposed to be a totem on that turn.
Oh!
Anyway,
That's
Wind
lethal.
Fury, just close it out anyway.
That's just very lethal on the other side, so regardless of what Nalgodan tried to do there, it didn't work. And Fung does take down the Aggro Shaman with the Quest Shaman. Very, very quickly.
It did. I'm kind of sad we didn't get to see the result, even though it definitely wouldn't have been Rockbiter. It might have been Rockbiter. Maybe.
Well, wise words. Wise words indeed, Darrett. We're going to leave that one there. The score is 1-1. Argentina and Hong Kong are fighting it out for a place in the winners bracket in their group. We'll be finding out the conclusion of this game after this short break. Argentina and Hong Kong have one win apiece, but this series is not over yet. Argentina still have their Aggro Shaman and their Druid to win with, and Hong Kong on the other side of things. They still have their Warrior with Hikarin, which I'm going to mention specifically because I was complaining about Warriors yesterday not having Hikar, so I'm excited to see this one. And Hong Kong also. Oh, we are going to jump straight into game number 3, Derek, and it is going to be now go down on the Druid.
Yes, and looking at the way the rest of this series is likely to shape out, I think I'd put Nalgadan and PNC on Argentina at a slight advantage, namely because, and I'm sounding like a blooming broken record here, because of the Rogue. It just feels like it is not well placed in the metagame at the moment. Maybe I'm missing something, you know. You obviously need to think about what else are you putting in as your 4th deck. But again, it does just look here like Fung has got a deck that's bad against Druid, and I'd have to imagine not great against the Aggro Shaman that Nalgadan has as well, purely because the amount of burst damage that Rogue has traditionally been very, very weak to. But maybe if he can get the win over the Druid, things will start to look a lot better for Hong Kong.
Well, it's time to find out, as obviously Nalgadan does the Druid things of you just take it nice and slow, coin out nothing on turn 1, get that quest completed. For anyone that hasn't seen Quest Druid before, that's how it works. To complete the quest, you have to have unspent mana crystals for 4 turns, and then your deck explodes, basically. And so really, it's down to Fung to cause some damage before Nalgadan gets to that point.
Correct, but it's looking like Nalgadan's going to have a fairly easy path to get there. The only real thing he's lacking at the moment is, well, as opposed to an undamaged thumb at the moment, as it looks like he's injured himself. Although he just covered his thumb as I said that. He's got some kind of a bandage on it. Anyway, the only thing he's lacking really is removal in the early game as Druid. No Wraths, no Swipes, no Bees, or anything like that, which could be a little bit of a weak spot.
Yeah, for the time being, Nalgadan doesn't really have those defensive tools, but honestly, Fung isn't doing all too much at the moment. Yeah, he's put a 3-3 on the board, but that alone isn't threatening enough. Hello, Elise.
Yeah, I mean, a 5-5 for 5, I've seen worse.
Yeah, and actually, Hong Kong do run Myra's Unstable Element. So there is the small chance that its effect does come into play. Unlike in one of the games yesterday where I think it was Bran that was picked up by a rogue. It was never going to happen because there was no Myras. But today it's Elise and there is a Myras in the deck. So it's within the realms of possibility.
Ooh, that was not a bad choice actually. Desperate Measures is honestly a pretty good card here, just to be able to get a consistent combo activator for the rest of your cards in hand. I think I quite like that choice. And the important thing as well is that we are quite clearly looking at not a regular rogue game. One of the key pieces I think we've been missing in a lot of the rogue matches has been Togwaggle. It's always been lackeys but no Togwaggle, or Togwaggle but no lackeys. Here, however, the two worlds shall collide perfectly, and it may spell doom for the Druid.
Though the quest has now been completed, Starfall and Nourish both sit in the hand ready to go. Obviously Nourish isn't playable in its turn, so as long as Nalgadan can think of something else to do next turn and then have enough health to afford to play the Nourish next turn, he's got Nourish into Kun and Cenarius both ready in the hand. It's looking like Nalgadan, just regardless of Fung's hand, Nalgadan is in a fantastic position.
I will agree with that for the moment, yeah. But, you know, you can always turn things around with Togwaggle. If we're looking at discover 2 legendaries into Colossus of the Moon, who knows? Maybe that off of Zarog's Crown could be enough to win Fung the game. I guess by picking between the lackeys here, Fung is really deciding what he wants to be weak to between Starfall and Oasis Surger, because if he goes wide...
It's like the classic warrior problem of the warrior having all of the different types of removal in the world. Super Collider for 2 minions, Shield Slam for 1, Brawl for lots of minions. Now Druid is able to do the same thing. I think you cut out for a moment there, Derek. Are you back?
Oh, really? Sorry.
I think I lost you. Yeah.
You'll always find me when you need me, Falk.
That's great.
All right. Don't sound so excited. Obviously not sure what the secret is at the moment, and if Nalgadan were to go for a swippity swipe and be met with Never Surrender, he would be very, very sad indeed.
Yeah, Never Surrender is certainly the awkward one. I mean, I guess there is a world in which redemption comes into play if the micro bots died first. Replicating Menace, rather.
Right.
It is going to be the swipe. We're going for it, and it's not Never Surrender.
Well, he already knew because he played the secret first to test for it.
Oh,
the Discover.
yes, yeah.
So I think that was probably correct ordering there. Makes a lot of sense. Clears things off, and now he's wiped out a couple of others. It's not Never Surrender. It's not Resurrection either. Redemption even.
But now there's a second one to play around.
Need a hand, Explorer?
And
Okay,
Bumps
as much
go ahead and
damage
take it.
as you can muster.
Exactly. Honestly, there wasn't really much else to consider doing this turn. I guess Waggle Pick plus Faceless Lackey was the only other real option, but he wants to save the Lackey for the Tog Waggle. So,
Waggle Pick's kind of interesting because you could go for the hope of bouncing Tog Waggle, which is like a very slow way to play. It's like traditionally quite strong against Warrior, but maybe a little bit too slow against Druid, where you're looking to, maybe just lose to their huge Kun the Forgotten King turn. So I think, all things considered, going into turn 6 where they want to play Nourish, developing the biggest threat you can makes a lot of sense.
I wonder.
So can Nalgadan just afford to go ahead and Nourish here? It seems relatively safe. 9 damage on the board. Leroy Shadow Step's only another 12. Gonna play it safe regardless. And that's gonna be the Never Surrender. Nalgadan shakes his head at the reveal of that, as now all of the microbots survive. What did you think of that turn, Derek? Did you think that this Starfall was really necessary there?
I was definitely anticipating the Nourish, it's got to be said. Yeah.
It just feels that the Nourish sets you up so much nicer for the next few turns.
Yeah, he obviously didn't want to tank the 8 damage and thought he'd be able to just get a free pass in the next couple of turns, but I wonder if he could have actually just got a read that there was Tog Waggle in hand, because like, when would you not just play a Lackey there, in addition to the Elise? I guess if it's like Kobold Lackey, maybe you wouldn't, but I don't know, even then, there's a lot of cards in hand, like, you're very likely going to be facing just as much, if not more damage on the following turn. So I think that was a fairly easy Nourish there, from where I was seeing. Because you've got to play it at some point.
That's what I thought too. Just seemed a little bit strange. Obviously Nalgadan figured there was a reason to be extremely defensive, but now playing the Nourish and getting the Ferocious Howl to finish the turn with, and even an Anubiseth Defender, if Nalgadan does feel the need to play even more defensively, it feels like things have worked out now.
I wonder. Time waits for no one.
Okay, that's fine. Probably when you got the wand in hand, you don't really care about giving your opponent extra cards. It's really just about taking damage off the board at the moment. I guess looking at how this shook out, you could definitely make the argument that Nalgodan was trying to curve directly Nourish into turn 10 for Kun the Forgotten King, thinking he wouldn't be able to get that much value out of the Nourish if he'd played it a turn earlier, which I can understand where he's coming from.
Zero mana Myra's Unstable Element. I wonder if that becomes relevant later on. Oh, Cenarius! Not quite as good without the Druid quest complete, but
That's still pretty nuts. +2/+2
there's
to
a-
everything here.
yeah, there's a board full of stuff, which, looking
Yeah.
at Nalgudan's hand, isn't necessarily going anywhere.
Man, this is just what Rogue's been missing, huh? This looks strong. Like, what this deck is doing
Cenarius.
is very powerful.
Cenarius and Elise. They are the cards that the Rogue needs.
Yeah, I guess
As in
so.
a 5-mana 5/5, and
So, this turn we could be looking at Kun the Forgotten King, Oasis Surger, Innovate, Zephyrus, Shadow Flame, clears the board completely, gets armor, and makes a big threat.
okay, yeah, I'm with you. We'll see if Nalgudan is, but yeah, I'm certainly convinced.
I guess you could probably save the Zephyrus for something more pressing. It doesn't need to come down on this turn. Or you could
Yeah.
just trade one and then go for Arcane Explosion.
Arcane Explosion, yeah.
Oh, Fan of Knives actually a 3 mana.
Oh, that's true. But no, with the second trade, it seems clear that's not where he's going. He's going to actually... Okay, coin out the hidden Oasis. Going to go right up to 32 health. 32
This seems
effective
much
health,
smarter.
anyways. And now that Cenarius isn't looking quite so strong. However, Questing Adventurer is looking quite strong. With a 0-mana sap, with an Evil Cable Rat, with a second sap and an Eviscerate, all ready to go in hand.
What if it's just Cenarius though? Like, Cenarius is really good.
So let's see, with
+2
Cenarius...
to everything, and a
Two of the minions deal with the 6/6. One of the minions deals with the 5/3. What are you sapping though? Are you sapping the 6/6?
6/6, I guess. Nothing
So
else. I mean,
then-
you don't want to sap everything else. Everything else is actively bad to sap.
So then you put what the waggle
So
pick into the
many
or you trade one minion into the 7/7, one minion into the 5/3, and then you waggle pick into the 7/7.
Sure.
I guess.
I mean, honestly, I was just thinking, let's send everything face.
All right, or you can do that. That's true.
Yeah. Like, past a certain point, why are you even trading? You want to close out the game.
13 damage from good face it. Alright, yeah, I like that. You make the one little trade there and... Oh no, he is gonna kill the... Okay, alright. Bouncing the Microbot. Not
Save that
ideal.
for the... Yeah, save that for the... Questing Adventurer next turn. I think it's fine. Just having a 0-mana thing to play. Like you said, it would obviously be better to get the Lackey. But I'm happy as Fung here.
But now Gudan, he's starting to feel like this game is coming back around with 2 Cenarius in hand ready to go, with Zephyrus and Ferocious Howl to gain more armor and do a powerful thing at some point. I mean, just look at this. This is ridiculous. Cenarius with the quest is ridiculous.
You probably push face here as well, actually, as Nalgodan. I think at 26 health, you're probably safe. And up to 2 Zephyrs in hand.
Oh,
I don't know, I think,
can
I think
tell
you probably could have gotten away with
Give
that
me a
there.
quest.
you can tell you've been playing a lot of Shaman, Derek. You want to put everything to the face on both sides of the
No,
board.
you're wrong. You trade with Shaman to get bored
Okay.
because then you go for Bloodlust. This
Yeah,
is
that's
me
true.
casting free my shackles of Shaman. You know, enthrallment, as it were.
It was quite clever. It would have been clever, but you play as the Murloc, right?
No, I play as War Chief Thrall, right? Whatever the new 1000.
Alright, humble brag.
Dude, I'm so bad. You must have all of them, right? Do you have all the
Yeah, yeah.
4 traits?
Yeah.
I only have 4.
Yeah, I do.
I have 4
Are
of
you
9.
serious?
Yes.
I mean, you watch a lot of Hearthstone, though.
Yeah, I do.
Like, that's
But,
always
like-
been my thing, is that like, over the years I've played a lot of Hearthstone, but you watch
Yeah,
more than you play, I think.
I know. I mean, it's pretty pitiful, and it's all Rogue and Druid wins, and now Shaman wins as well. Like they're just heads and tails with everything else. But it's better than Hunter Ace, who doesn't even have Gold Hunter. He doesn't even have 500 wins on Hunter.
Your wish is my suggestion.
Hunter Ace.
It's a bad class, isn't it?
In its name. I mean, it is just a bad class, I agree. Right, Fung did an incredible job on that turn of sweeping things back into his favor. Kind of one of the reasons why I wanted to start going base for Nalgordan, because then maybe you can just start looking at lethal instead of clearing the board. But either way, this looks like it should be doing a more than good enough job for the moment. Reset the board, another Zephyrus to potentially reset things again in case everything goes wrong.
Yep, and Elise drawn, which is obviously ready to go because we just saw a Zephyrus pull out a Twisting Nether. If Elise is played, that Zephyrus still remains a Zephyrus. And the second flute becomes or rather that flute becomes the Elise, and the other flute remains a Zephyrus, or one of those ways around. Like, either way, one flute is each. So if Nalgordan wanted to, he could play Elise first, and then play the Zephyrus.
Right.
And then play Zephyrus again after that.
Right. Right. Clearing the hand time. One of the weird instances where, what is that called? World Kick Master or something? It's actually good. You might be able to get some value out of it. Oh no, wait, tell a lie, he didn't draw a single combo card.
Yeah. Unlucky. Wild Growth. of all of the Druid cards you could possibly get, Wild Growth.
Literally nothing. Alright, this is starting to get pretty impressive now for Nalgordan. It's just about how do you lock this one out. Absolutely. Are you going to need Zephyrus for the rest of the game? Maybe. I wouldn't be too opposed to just seeing like B's Elise.
Okay. So B's Elise would clear the 3/3 and duplicate what is a very powerful hand still.
Yeah.
What?
I mean, like, maybe the best plan is just to go Cenarius, Cenarius, Elise, Cenarius.
Okay. If he did go Elise Zephyrus, I mean, he'd get a Lightning Bolt, which I guess would deal with a 3/3. It's not super relevant. I think I'm with you. I'd much prefer the idea of playing these Cenarius.
Sure. I mean, like, I think I might just be getting a bit distracted by these. Like, clearing off a minion, sure, it's powerful, it gets a little bit of damage off the board, but this has to be better, right? This just clears off a lot of damage.
Right.
I suppose the only
question that now
is,
go on.
Sorry, that it allows Leroy to be 100% targeted by the Waggle Pick bounce, which is a bit scary.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing that Nalgordan has to worry about now is this play defensive enough? Like Fung has just drawn his entire deck. What does he have? The chance there being Leroy Shadow Step is relatively high, and the Leroy Shadow Step plus Waggle Pick is a lot of damage. Are these two taunts enough? I believe he's seen both saps already, so he knows that's not going to be an issue. I think he may have even seen both Eviscerates as well. So
yeah, he has. Yeah, and I mean the real problem is that for Fung, he also has information, and he knows that there is at least one Oasis Elemental minion, whatever it is, as a 6/6 taunt left in hand, which means Leroy will not be able to deliver lethal over the next couple turns, and therefore he has to develop a board. Feels rubbish, but he doesn't have a choice.
Oh, Reckless Mummy is one of the better cards he could have picked up there. Blessing of the Ancients. It's also very powerful if this board were to stick, and even if it doesn't stick, 2 Underbelly Fence into Titanic Lackey, into Swashbuckler, into Blessing of the Ancients just isn't a bad turn.
Oh, imagine if he'd got Luna's Pocket Galaxy before his 0 mana Myras, and then he could have gone for like a bunch of 1 mana guys in a turn. I mean, most of his guys cost 1 or 2 mana anyway, so it wouldn't have made much different. Okay, we got most of a clear in hand. Only the 4/1 would be able to survive, I believe. But I think you're pretty happy to take that exchange as Nalgordan.
Yeah, again, 24 effective health. He's not worried about that 4/2 too much. Waggle Pick is gone. Leroy Shadow Step is in 12 damage. This game is falling further and further out of Fung's control. Although it looked like he was in such a good spot earlier on, we were starting to wonder if the Rogue would be toppling the Druid. It looks like now Gudan has, at the moment, secured this, as look at this scenario. This is absurd.
Okay, this is pretty stupid. I was wondering if you should have just gone for Starfall plus scenarios at the first glance, but like you said, this just sets up Lethal so handily and also gains him some armor. This is just a better play. It's a good spot. So we are looking at Fence, Blessing of Ancients, which allows you to take up the 2/4/4s.
Yeah, that's
push
not bad
every
at all.
base, and then die.
That's bad.
Or-
That part's bad. I don't like that part of the plan.
Okay, we'll change that part.
There's no board clear that you can take with Swashbuckler from the Druid. There's
Right.
no Druid board clear.
Yeah, you have to just hope for a miracle though. Whoa!
Is
Savage
Ravager a
Roar?
miracle? No,
Is that
it's
the
not.
answer? 5,
How much is this
9?
worth to you?
No, it's not quite there.
Nope.
What is this worth to you? Choose two.
It's a solid effort, but it just doesn't get the job done. It's a pretty ludicrously powerful turn at this point in the game. Still just doesn't get the job done. 7, 10, 16 damage, Starfall, Wrath, however you want to do it. That is going to be the game locked out with the fatigue. Nalgordan takes the series 2 games to 1.
With the expected result from this game, despite the fact things did seem to go a little bit wonky for Nalgordan at one point, there was that one play earlier on that we're still, I think, both a little bit unsure of, where he went with the Starfall rather than the Nourish on turn 6, when the Starfall just didn't seem that necessary, and the Nourish seemed like it would have helped dramatically over the next couple turns.
Yeah. I think they still had like a good reason for it. Like their thinking was very clearly, we want to curve into turns. They had a Couldn't Have Forgotten King in hand, so they wanted to be able to go for a big power turn to swing everything back, which is exactly what they did. And the plan worked out very well for them. And to be fair, again, it had to be exactly never surrender for their plan to not just work out absolutely perfectly. And if the punish is that you're left with 3 damage on board anyway, I think, while I was critical at the time, I don't hate it.
It just seemed weird when the following turn they then had to Nourish against a board much more powerful than the board before they Starfalled. Either way, it's going to be now the Aggro Shaman for Nalgordan as the only remaining deck for Argentina. And now the big question is, can the Aggro Shaman make it through? Up against a warrior, it's not seeming like the most comfortable matchup from where I'm sitting.
Yeah, I'm going to say it can, but it probably won't. Welcome to probabilities in Hearthstone and how the game works. Yeah, I don't know. Like the Token Shaman is already a pretty drastically unfavored matchup in my opinion, but you do have some potential like high rolls that can happen, or things that can go very, very fortunately for you with the deck, like an early Hair Evolve with Mogu thrown in and there's no Brawl. Or if you are able to just get a huge Bloodlust at some point in the game, the Warrior can't answer. That's the kind of level that you need to be able to beat the Warrior. And the Aggro Shaman does still have the capability for Hair Evolve with the Mogu, but it's just that little bit less likely to get the lethal because they don't have Bloodlust or the Stormbringer tacked onto that. Oof. You know, I was talking the other day about having Snip Snap and Eternium Rover in your deck because it's just an auto win versus aggro decks. Yeah, that.
Yeah, it's the second time in as many days that we've seen this Eternium Rover comboed with a Snip Snap do this very, very powerful thing, and my goodness, it just seems so oppressive in this early point in the game. Given that Kin can follow up with the Carter Defender, there's not too much Nalgordan can do to get past that.
Kin having a great time laughing with Fung here about how hilarious Archivist Elysiana is, I guess. Yes, that is the only play, correct.
gotta think about it. Gotta check, double check.
Yeah. Right, now's the turn. This is what we've been waiting for Nagodan. Thunderhead,
Okay.
coin, sat off the top is fantastico. And now he needs to try and dominate this board to the degree that Kin doesn't stand a chance of ever wrestling back the game. It sounds more and more unlikely the longer I keep talking.
Yeah. I mean, preferably without dealing lots of tiny chunks of damage that are turning rover, because look at the armor that it's built up.
Yeah.
After
And this is the
the
problem with-
Lickham goes in, 9 armor.
Yeah. But this is another problem with the deck, right? The 2-mana spell that was just drawn was not Soul of the Murloc. In the token deck, the only 2-mana spell is Soul of the Murloc. And although it's not fantastic against Warrior because they have Warpath, Whirlwind, Dynamatic, if oftentimes the only way you win the matchup is just praying they don't have exactly that one card to be able to clear it off, and then you push for lethal with Bloodlust. There's no such possibility here. Brawl is just always a clear. Cards are plenty found.
So Dynamatic doesn't quite seem good enough for Kin at the moment, as it's only dealing with the 1/1 and likely not touching or not doing enough to the other 2 minions. So shield block, shield slam, maybe just get rid of that Thunderhead.
Agreed. He's
Yeah.
gotta die. You know, there's a decent chance they have an evolve in hand, so if you are met with something... Oh, well, okay. Not the way I was expecting, but that'll do. If they do go for some kind of a Hare or Mogu evolve in the next couple of turns, you still have the Brawl to deal with that, so I like the Shield Slam a lot this turn. And now we're starting to see the problem, though, hey. A lot of cards have been drawn, but the Warrior is above starting health total on turn 5 against an aggro deck. That does not shape up well.
Faceless Lackey probably decides this turn now, doesn't it? Just Lackey into evolve. I'm staring at Electra and thinking, is there any way we're going Electra evolve at some point? But there's just... I don't know if Nalgadon has time to wait for that.
Is this really an evolve turn? Because, I just don't know, because the problem is with this deck, when you're playing Token Shaman, you would happily not evolve this, because just a bunch of 1/1s and rubbishy minions threatens Bloodlust. You could just hero power here and happily threaten that. There's no threat of that in this deck. What you see is what you get, so you have to put enough damage to actually threaten the Warrior down.
It is going to have to be the evolve, yeah. And that's... Oh, Micro Mummy reappeared. That's funny. Nothing great there. A 3/4 is the best we've got, unfortunately. And Kin is able to brawl this away. Or even just drop card 2. Like you said, there's no Bloodlust in the deck, so really, what's he afraid of?
Yeah, I mean, I think at this point, given that you know 100% that 4 of the 5 cards in their hand are spells, I think you're pretty safe that if you brawl and don't take any more damage, you should be able to lock out this game.
Yeah.
What to do?
I'd be very interested to hear from Nalgadon and PNC what the benefits in their eyes are of going for the Aggro Shaman over the Token Shaman, because it is undeniably much less popular. The majority of players agree that the Token Shaman is a better variant. And again, I'd be curious to hear what the matchups that improves are against, like maybe Priest, where your extra burn spells can double as removal.
Okay.
Maybe it's better in the mirror because you can just ignore board and start pushing everything face. I could see that being a possibility, and I wouldn't hate that argument.
Sure. I mean,
but-
Token Shaman is still widely considered one of the best decks in the game. So
Absolutely.
it is surprising to see a team not only not bring the quest variant, but actually choose something entirely different. And
Right.
unfortunately, because of that dynamatic, Algodan has been once again pretty well locked out. 6 damage on the board, Rockbiter weapon in hand, but no Doomhammer, which would be insane here with Rockbiter and Electra.
I wonder.
Okay, so we're looking at outs now, right? For Kin. If we can see Tyrion or Ragnaros, basically not that pile of rubbish, then we'd be in with a shot.
Tomb Warden is not ideal.
I think I agree that that wasn't worth an Electra. Like, a 9-drop is not worth that much more than an 8-drop a lot of the time.
Yeah, that's fair. Again, I mean, the Electra is pretty much now being saved exclusively for Rockbiter weapon.
There is little
I
time.
think.
Sure.
Unless
yeah,
the second evolve's picked up, then maybe you'd consider that as well. But Rockbiter weapon times 2 into a Doomhammer is 16 damage in 1 turn, and then, like you said, the Doomhammer alone deals 16 damage over the course of 4 turns. So,
I mean, at this point, I honestly wonder if it's being saved for, like, Sludge Slurper into Ethereal Lackey into Bloodlust is their best shot at winning this game, because it just seems so unlikely that they're able to get there at this point.
yeah. Well, I mean, if that ever came up, then sure.
Right, yeah.
Electra definitely save the Bloodlust. Maybe that is the plan.
Maybe.
By the power of Ragnaros, job's done. I have the power.
Yeah, I'm happy with tanking this damage just to get a Thorisan
Okay.
on
Alright.
the board.
Thunderhead does deal with it, nice and easily though. 5 more damage gets pushed through to the face this turn. Micro Mummy is continuing to slowly but surely improve the attack power on the board. It's just not looking like enough though, is it? It's a very slow process.
No,
And
it's
again, with no Bloodlust, it's not very threatening at all.
But if there is no board cliff for the next few turns, you know, this is the point where maybe they can get it. This is like the whatever small percentage it is to take the matchup. Weapons Project Shield Slam does allow for the Thunderhead to be taken out, but I honestly wonder if the Thunderhead is actually your biggest concern right now. Maybe it would be better to Shield Slam the Taunt, just so that you're able to take out the Micro Mummy with your weapon. And then play Carter.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, honestly, doing whatever it takes to just slowly to just chip away at this board. Now, given there's only 2 cards in Nalkudan's hand, and I don't believe there's really any ways that Nalkudan could draw more cards.
Yeah.
No, that there just aren't any ways for Nalkudan to draw more cards. This game is seeming like it's over. It's just the player's just taking a slow and painful way about proving that.
Yeah, I like this play. Allows you to crack open the hard shell of this board and feast upon the flesh inside. As it were. Oh, alright, there we go. That's a card. That is the card that Nalkudan needed here, I think, to even ignite any hope at all within this game. Doomhammer gets you a couple of 1/1s, so then like Doomhammer, trade the Thunderhead and the 2 1/1s in, which allows you to completely clear up the Kartu, swing face. Or you could just tank the 4 damage, that's fine too, I suppose.
What do?
It's just looking like it's far too little too late though for Nalkudan. Maybe if he can continue to just have these minions on the board chipping away bit by bit, maybe then there could be enough in theory, but as soon as Kin picks up a warpath, this game ends. Or another weapon.
I mean, a Warpath, a Brawl, Weapons Project, Harrison, Zoth, Cartfoot Defender. There's just so many good cards that you can draw here. He's been drawing dead for like quite a few turns now.
Oh
Hey!
no! Celebrates, raises his arms in celebration. As Harrison is going to be playing right now, it's going to be drawing 7 cards for Kin, and well and truly locking Nalgudan out of this game. It looks like we are going all the way to Game 5 this series. Wow.
Man, that is going to be one hell of an exhibit in that museum when it rocks around. Now, here you can see the Doomhammer on display, and here you can see Nalgudan's tears crystallized forever.
Reminds me of the good old days with Harrison's taking out Doomhammers, taking out Jiraxxus's weapon. You remember that?
Oh yeah. I'm gonna take your literal hands and put them in a museum. Leave my game.
No tomb can hold me.
Yeah. Top pick.
No tomb can hold me.
Right. That is cleared up. Back up to full health. Now I'm struggling to see a way back in.
Argentina, you may now concede.
Yep.
There we go. We give you permission. And the Kin tying up this series, leaving Hong Kong with only the Rogue and Argentina with only the Shaman. Both teams have the deck that they have been struggling with the most this series. And Derek, I'm going to just throw you the question immediately. Which of these decks do you think is the favorite here?
I'm going to choose to be generous to Argentina here and say that I think this is one of the reasons why they would have brought this deck over the Rogue, over the usual token Shaman. This is not something I have empirical evidence of, it's just a hunch that typically Rogue has struggled a lot against the decks that have very high amounts of burn damage. We're talking about Aggro Shaman way back in the day with Tunnel Shrog and Totem Golem. We're talking about old school Face Hunter way back in like the Blackrock or Naxxramas era, where it was just able to launch everything to the face and the Rogue didn't have the healing necessary. And now with only the Life Drinkers as the possibility to heal at all, maybe Nalgudan is able to just equip a Doomhammer and start swinging away like there's no tomorrow.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, Hong Kong aren't even running a Life Drinker in their Rogue. It's a slightly different build. No Sharks. We've seen this Rogue once already, but I'm going to point out again, it does run Myros the Stable Element and also Heist Baron Togwaggle. So quite a top-heavy deck, but also a bottom-heavy deck. And that there's no Shark. There's none of these sort of middly Rogue stuff. The sort of meat of the deck is actually in its early game with Eviscerates making an appearance, and they're not a particularly common card at the moment.
Oh, right, a lot just went very good for Kin there. First of all, Edwin on the coin, fantastic. 1 drop on 1, fantastic. 4 out of the 12 Reborn minions in the game are class specific. He got one of them. That means his Vendetta is activated. It only happens 33.3, repeating percent of the time. He was able to get the fortunate outcome. Now we are looking at a nutty powerful Edwin right at the start of the game.
We are. The only issue with this Edwin now is that he doesn't have a target for the Vendetta unless he wants to kill his own minion. And I guess there's no real punish for that, is there?
I mean, it's probably just coin backstab Edwin on this turn. Like, that's makes a 6/6 on this turn. It keeps a Vendetta in hand. I think that's probably the most. Okay.
Wow, Kin finds a different line. He's going to hold off a little longer, really try and milk that Edwin for everything that it's worth by adding some lackeys to the hand for now.
I'm fine with that as well, yeah.
Again, as we were pointing out yesterday, lackeys are very, very nice when played defensively anyway. It's going to be pretty difficult for Nalgudan to develop any sort of pressure with all of the defensive tools that Kin has available now. Goblin Lackey in particular is very, very good at stemming the tide of the board.
Oh, everything just lines up so horribly. Like, if you almost don't want to go for the Rock Biter because you want there to be as many minions on board as possible, weirdly enough here, so that your Mogu Flesh Shaper is actually able to come down on the following turn. Yeah, so it's just Totem totem instead. But this is just eaten alive by everything that Kin can go for.
Blink Fox does allow for another just do a simple thing and turn play if Kin wants to go that route. Obviously backstab Edwin is still an option. It is just 4/4 though, so this board doesn't really warrant using the Vendetta, so I think I like the Blink Fox from what I'm looking at, or just at least staying away from Edwin for now.
Yeah, Blink Fox is 100% my first instinct as well, that it just seems like a very strong play. But then you have to take into account that you can only kill off one of the opposing lackeys then, unless you want to backstab, which leaves you incredibly vulnerable to Mogu Mutate on this turn, and it gives a perfect target in the 3/3 to rush into. So having taken a little bit of a closer look, I actually really like the removal option instead here, to make sure that Mogu Mutate is not playable on this turn. Or, sorry, doesn't have as good of a target, and is therefore just that little bit weaker, and it keeps you the option to fight back against it.
So without a Zap present in the hand, this Thunderhead isn't looking ideal. This turn is just... It's just one turn too early. With 5 mana, there's quite a lot that Nalgudon could do here with Thunderhead and Voltaic Burst and Mogu Flesh Shaper, etc., etc. But at the moment, this is kind of awkward.
So he could just go Mogu Mutate this turn and then Thunderhead plus Burst next turn. I think I probably like that.
Okay,
I mean,
yeah,
unless
clear a
you
thing,
want to go
summon
like
an 8-drop.
Hero Power Rockbiter on this turn, and then go for the full combo next turn, where you make a nice big board in one go, which, honestly, I can see that having its merits. You know, generally you want to make a big board all at once versus Rogue, so that Sap can't be as valuable.
Okay.
That is what
That is definitely... Yeah, I mean... It's not a conventional wave using the Rockbiter weapon. It's quite an expensive removal, but it does the job, and it still allows for Nalgudon to get that powerful play next turn with the Thunderhead and the Mogu, and then the Mutate. Kin still has the Edwin in hand. Still no decent targets for that Vendetta, though, so he's still holding off on it for the time being, by the looks of things.
I'm still not even certain I like that play more, because... You know, if he had something good to spend his mana on proactively on this turn, I'd absolutely agree that going for a 0 mana Mogu is better. But he kind of didn't. That was basically passing there. He just killed off a 1/2 and made a totem. So I don't know, I kind of have the urge to say that he should have gone for making the 8-drop on this turn. And just hope that there's no sap.
Well, either way, it's going to happen now. Yeah, it's actually perfect for the Mogu, isn't it? 5 minions get added to the board, it costs 0, it gets played, it gets mutated.
Yeah, you can clear the board as well, it just has to be the play.
Yep.
I mean, okay, alternative options are stalling out yet further to try and go for a Thunderhead, Voltaic Burst, Mogu Evolve, as opposed to Mutate on the following turn, which is what they are going for. They're greeding out another turn here. And okay, fair enough, if you want to greed it out further. You can do that. Does mean that he will be able to get that one massive turn. And again, as I said, this is the thing that is traditionally strong against rogues. So I actually, again, I see the reasoning from Nalgudon.
It does feel exceptionally greedy, though, doesn't it?
It does.
Like, do you really care that much about evolving the rest of your board? The Mogu Flesh Shaper is the main evolved target anyway. And he could have still mutated that. I mean, turns ago, as you pointed out. Meanwhile, Kin still holding off on that Edwin, which looked like at the start of the game that was going to be the power play for the Rogue. It looked like a very early Edwin was going to be the thing to do, but it still remains in the left side of his hand.
I mean, honestly, I think that's one of the best things that Kin has played about this game is actually his. I don't know how conservative he's been with his removal, because it's almost like he's baiting Nalgodan into going into this exact kind of play we're about to see.
Yeah.
So that when he does, he
Here
has
it is.
such powerful removal that he'll be able to fight back so easily.
Backstab, Vendetta, Shadow Bowl Edwin if he wanted to. Or obviously,
I mean, even
Goblin
Betrayal
Lackey.
could be insane.
Oh, yeah.
After he clears up all the 2-drops and then Betrayal's a 5-drop or an 8-drop, that's nuts.
Backstab, Vendetta, Goblin Lackey, Betrayal, Edwin. Seems like a pretty good turn.
I wonder.
But we'll see what Nalgudan gets from this evolve and how much he actually decides to clear here.
There is little time.
Okay, mixed bag, but
Pretty
we'll
good.
take the Alec here. Yeah, we'll
Yeah, I
take
think
the
I'm
Alec
pretty
here in the millhouse.
Hey.
Okay.
3-3 into 3-3. Gave it an elemental tag.
Yep.
That's something, I suppose. But now is the
I
turn
don't
for
think it
Kin.
is.
Sure. Okay. Fair enough. But the play comes down for Nalgodan. That is the turn that Kin has to overcome, and now his opportunity to do so. He has a pretty powerful betrayal that he could throw down. I don't even know what. I guess on the mill house to take out a couple of minions, and then from there, the way I'm seeing it, it's just a pretty easy set of clears.
Yep, as you said, the Betrayal is going to do a serious amount of work there. Millhouse Mana Storm. What are you doing? Next up, Edwin, and give the Edwin rush to deal with the Alec here. Really nice.
He's just got the goods. He's got the goods.
And you know who doesn't have the goods? Unfortunately, Nalgudan doesn't have the goods. With only a Lickum in the hand, it's not looking like he has the tools to come back onto this board. It's looking like, unfortunately for Argentina, the Aggro Shaman that we've been interested in and debating this entire series, it has been the Aggro Shaman that has let them down.
Oh, this is an old school play, damaging the Lightwell for one attack so that it has the chance to heal itself. On average, deals more damage to your opponent than attacking phase. Very clever.
Yeah. With Zap drawn, it really is looking like the end. He can zap and hit the Edwin. Looks like that's what he's gonna do.
Yikes. And when you're going for these kind of plays instead of pushing the damage phase, it's quite clearly all over. And for Nalgodan, he made the play that traditionally, as I kept saying, is strong against Rogue. You go for one massive board that they cannot possibly stand a chance of overcoming. But in this instance, Kin saved all his removal very, very expertly, I really want to add. And it just meant that even with that powerful play, he was able to overcome it. I think it was a very strong game.
These evolves aren't really up to scratch this game, are they?
Yeah, I mean,
Use
it's
8-3-3 into 3-3 and... Yeah, sure. I like it. Looking like enough, given how chunky Kintan is. There's the concede! Takes the series for Hong Kong. 3-2. It was a close one in the long run, but once again, unfortunately for Argentina, the Aggro Shaman does seem to have let them down.
Yeah, 0-3 on that deck, able to quite easily sail through with their other 2 decks that they had available. Definitely going to be looking back to the drawing board for them, opposed as to how they approach that matchup, I guess, or that deck overall, how they're playing it. Maybe they could change some things, and also I'd have to imagine no small amount of regret that they didn't just go for a more standard token shaman or quest shaman, given how
Yeah.
poorly it performed.
Well, Argentina are going to be moving down into the elimination bracket where later on they will be facing off against Mexico. But first, the next series we have coming up is going to be the winners bracket here in Group B. It's going to be Chinese Taipei up against Hong Kong. A really exciting game. The winner of that game will be moving forward to the final stage of HGG, to the top 8, which will take place the weekend of the 22nd of December. But we'll be finding out which team that's going to be in the next series coming up after this break.